Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim
And
Kerr.
welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame. Well, Jim, things are starting to get a little serious when it comes to the NHL lockout. I don't know if it's serious about getting the lockout finished, but at least it's serious in terms of emotions. What's the latest step being taken by both sides?
Well, if they had a Facebook account, it would say under relationship, it's complicated, I
It's
think.
complicated.
Yeah. So the NHLPA is voting on whether to let the executive board dissolve the Players Association, which is the whole decertification thing. They need 2/3 in favor to disband. That would let the players challenge the legality of the lockout and file antitrust lawsuits against the league. Meanwhile, the league is trying to take action on the other side, filing a class action complaint, asking a court in New York, which I guess courts in New York are generally pro-management, supposedly. But they're trying to get the lockout declared legal, so that would sort of challenge what the NHLPA is trying to do. Reports say, now this is interesting. I read on the website Deadspin that the NHL is also threatening to make every player an unrestricted free agent, which would be insane on a whole number of levels. But I wonder how the owners feel about that, because let's face it, there's teams that would desperately not want that to happen.
Could you imagine if, let's say, Pittsburgh? Oh, all of a sudden, Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby, the face of the franchise.
Fleury, Letang,
All of them. It's like,
yeah.
oh,
And that's the example. That's actually the example
is
they
it?
used in that article. Like,
yeah.
okay, so what if? And maybe the owners are hoping the players will stick with them, but there's no guarantee of that.
Well,
And
not
if
if they're
it comes
treating the
to
players
an
like
all-out
crap.
bidding war,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good point.
Why
Yeah,
would they stay, right? Like, they got no reason to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious if they did that. I don't know. Actually, you know who it'd be us. Come on now. It'd be the Edmonton Oilers. We would get screwed in that because who
Yeah.
wants to stay here when they could sign in Anaheim?
Especially when you're talking about entry-level guys,
Oh, totally.
guys about to hit a second contract
Yeah.
where they would be RFAs, but now they're UFAs, and it's
Oh.
just Hall, Eberle, the
Oh,
huge,
just gone.
Akopov, even like brand new players out there getting max contracts. Like,
Totally. It'd be something else. I don't know how it would work. But okay, so do these moves bring us closer to an end, or is this really a bad sign, Jim?
but it seems like anytime something like this happens, where most of us go like, "Ooh, this looks bad," there's always a little pocket of people that say, "Well, maybe it forces them into a room, and in another league they tried something like this, and the lockout was ended a week later." That's fair, but it seems to me like this has become like really mean,
Yeah.
and like they're just doing stuff to hurt each other.
Yeah.
That's sort of the, like, when you hear rumors that the owners are saying, "Oh, well, if you have Donald Fear in the room, we're not going to talk to you."
Yeah,
Stuff
come
like
on
that.
now.
Like, if you have your union representative in the room, we won't bargain with you, huh? And now, as for the rumors about the UFA stuff, I wonder how many of the owners want that. Like, we hear about the fact that it takes 8 teams or what, 8 owners to veto anything. I wonder if you've got 29 owners saying, "Yeah, stick it to them. Make everyone a U." Wait, what's that? Everyone a
yeah.
UF. Does it still mean the same thing? Unrestricted. Gary.
Oh.
So maybe there's a minority of the owners saying, "Yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that," and some of the other owners are going,
Yeah.
uh,
I'm
but yeah, I strongly doubt that they've got a majority that wants that to happen. Whether or not that UFA thing is true remains to be seen. But if you're an owner with a bad team, maybe you're like, finally.
yeah.
But if you're an owner that's, okay, let's use the Oilers as an example
Well, yeah.
again.
That's
It's
exactly
been
it.
3 or 4 or more terrible
more.
seasons, really hard seasons. But the reward from all of that bad play
Yes.
was that you stockpile young guys, and you got this, you're starting to finally, maybe we're seeing the rise of the Oilers again, and then you start from scratch.
Yeah.
I don't see a team like the Oilers thinking that that's much of a good idea. Established teams, again, maybe the owners are thinking like, well, why would these guys want to leave? Well, it's kind of like the whole European thing where it's like, oh, Rick Nash and Joe Thornton want to play together in Switzerland.
Right.
You know, you might get some teams that, from a purely fan perspective, say, putting all of my affiliations aside,
Sure.
it's kind of a fun idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's like putting in the latest video game where
Right,
you're just
and
like, I'm
getting
going
all
to
the
trade this
guys.
guy to this team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think that's a horrible thing to happen in the NHL because, you know, it's basically like the league gets a brand new identity.
Oh, totally.
Pretty much.
I can't see Patrick LaForge or Daryl Cates if he ever showed up, but sitting in those meetings and we're like, yeah, you know what? We should really no, just can't see it. Actually, speaking of LaForge and Cates, there was another movement, I guess, in the proposed rink in Edmonton. What's the latest there?
Well, the city's decided to reopen talks with the Cates Group after Daryl Cates pulled back on a couple of requests. One of those requests was for over $200 million in public money over a couple of decades, I believe. It's a positive step, but they want shovels in the ground in 5 months to, you know, kind of keep to the schedule they've been working towards. But they're still $100 million short. And there was a quote from Daryl Cates' lawyer to that effect. It's funny how this situation sort of mirrors in some ways the NHL lockout, because, you know, how many times in the course of these lockout negotiations have you heard like, well, we're close on this, and this, but you know that big problem? Yeah, we're nowhere near.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we'll talk again. You know, you pull back on this request, you do this, that. But the quote was from John Carvelis, even if we iron out every detail, we're still $100 million short.
That's right.
And, I mean, the last time I checked my bank account, it's, you know, $100 million is a lot of money. When you look at what you have personally and you think,
Right.
what would it take for me to get this to $100 million? And you're like, oh, like over 99
Yeah.
million,
Still
900 and like
a lot.
90,000? Like,
Yeah.
like, okay, so I've got like 0.001 of that.
Yeah. No problem.
And they've both, you know, put some money up, and they're still $100 million short. So that's kind of worrying because, you know, that's not a sum of money that you just
No, it's
pull
not
out
easy
of
to
no.
get to. You don't walk down to
Yeah.
the corner store and get that.
Yeah, we're talking about like a city that's doing well and a billionaire, and they're like, oh, there's
Yeah.
still that $100 million.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So it's good news that that they're talking again, and that, you know, they've made some progress. They're also the other kind of interesting thing, and also mirroring the NHL lockout situation, is that neither side believes the other side's numbers,
Right.
which we've heard a million times. So they're bringing in an independent financial guy to have a look. So I think they're still not showing each other, but they're going to have a guy go in and kind of go, oh, okay. And then he'll maybe make a ruling, or he'll, you know, assure the other side that the other side is
doing good. That was
Yeah.
actually the biggest thing that I heard out of that I was really positive about, was that mediator. So I think that's going to be a great thing. I think that's a good idea. So
Yeah,
I'm happy
but
about that.
still $100 million
Still
short.
$100 million apart. That's a good point. Well, while we're talking Edmonton sports, Jim, how about the Edmonton Eskimos? And they're naming a dude GM this week.
Yeah, Ed Hervey's the man now. He was the head scout, of course, a former Eskimo. He's
Great
now the
Eskimo.
GM. Yeah, a fantastic Eskimo. Sounds like it's a move in the right direction, because he's one of those guys that, you know, it's cliche, but, you know, bleeds green and gold. Like,
Right.
he's an Eskimo. He values the tradition. He wants to get the team back to there. Interesting comments made by Hervey, though, about former GM Eric Tillman, who, you know, we've talked about on the show, didn't live in the city, was only here a few days a week, and it's kind of awkward. He said that one of the things that stood out for me was that he said the EE doesn't stand for Ego Empire.
No.
Which kind of, you know, I'd say that speaks volumes. He implied also that Eric Tillman kind of pawned off some of his duties onto head coach Kavis Reed. So he was saying that, first of all, that Reed's his man and that Reed will be back, but he wants Kavis Reed to be able to just coach.
Yeah.
So we don't know what exactly he was referring to there, but he's implying that Eric Tillman was it money for nothing? Like watch games on the weekend?
It doesn't look like Tillman was really the right fit here, and I'm hoping that this is now the right fit.
Yeah, and for like a diehard Eskimo, an Eskimo guy, to say like, and they asked about his relationship with Eric Tillman. So GM head scout, you'd assume that there's some talking there. He said he had no relationship with him.
Oh, well, there you go, right there.
So it sounds like it was a pretty volatile type of deal, but I like this.
Yeah, no, I like it too. I can't wait to see it. We'll see what they can do. No, it should be good. Well, how about a story we've been following on 50 Minutes of Fame for quite a long time now? It was a big development in this story on the NFL bounty front, Jim.
Yeah, a huge development, and this has been one of our favorites. Yeah. I think it took over from Pacquiao Mayweather.
Absolutely, this is definitely one of our favorites.
Which we drug that one out. Former NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue was brought in by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell to kind of like a second pair of eyes to handle the appeals for this bounty program involving the New Orleans Saints. He vacated the suspensions of the 4 current and former Saints players, saying that it should be more on the shoulders of the coaches and management. Now, I agree with that because having that level of the team organization put pressure on the players to do something that's wrong. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's especially in a non-guaranteed contract type of atmosphere, where maybe here today, gone tomorrow, and maybe it's because of something like that. Whereas maybe you're a good player, but they're like, I don't like you. You're not playing along. Boom, gone. And maybe that's your career. If you're a star, it's easier to go to maybe take a stand, but
not for the bubble guys. Not for the guys who
are, for every star, there's 20 or 30 guys that,
Totally.
And, say a guy came out and said, this is what's happening. It's wrong. You guys should know about it. Because that's, part of the argument was, you should have said something. Say it takes a year, as it did almost, to get a final call on what happened. Do you think that guy would have a bit of trouble gaining employment during that time?
Oh, totally.
I have a feeling that it might be tough for him.
Yeah, and so that's hard. It's hard to talk about your other players like that.
Because the whole whistleblowers and
totally.
And maybe then the next team that signs him, maybe he gets a cold shoulder from the coaches. Exactly. Maybe he gets a cold shoulder from the players. Because some guys will be more pro organization, some guys will be more on his side. But I think it makes it. I think that'd be a very, very hard thing to do for a player. And I think Paul Tagliabue acknowledged that. Commissioner Goodell completely disagreed, of course, because it kind of made him look stupid.
Yeah, he had to.
Yeah. But I think it's the right move because we've talked about it a number of times, and I think our opinion of it hasn't really changed. Where it's, what are these guys supposed to do? The coaches are trying to get them to do something, and there was some people saying that that proved there really wasn't much of a bounty program in the first place.
Wow,
I think there was something there.
That's exactly it. I don't think that's the right thing. I know that's some of the conclusions that people can run to, but no, I'm like we've been talking about for forever. There's something going on there. Yeah.
But I think they reacted a little too harshly, a little too soon. I think is the gist of what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we wrap up the rundown here, Jim, you got anything going on March 16th-ish, 2013?
Let me check my calendar.
Look at your calendar there.
I can see really well now, so it's really far away. Right. I'm just reading it. I think I'll probably be watching 2 unreal fights, Jeff. Unreal. The UFC announced that George St. Pierre will fight Nick Diaz in Montreal, UFC 158. And if that's not good enough for you, Rory McDonald and Carlos Condit on the same night. First time those guys fought, McDonald came out, dominated 2 rounds, lost in the 3rd round.
Right.
That's going to be he called him out after his after his win over BJ Penn. He said, I want Condit. He humiliated me. Let's do this again. That's going to be fantastic. GSP, Nick Diaz, we've talked about it. That's going to be a great fight too. On the same card, thank you, Dana White.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a co-main event to watch for. That's absolutely going to be amazing. Well, folks, we're going to move on to the Gabbies now. These are the good and bad by you. Good this week to the 23 players who will make up Canada's entry into the 2013 World Juniors. Oil Kings defenseman Griffin Reinhardt is among those players who cracked the roster. But, unfortunately, goalie Laurent Brossoit, I can't do the French names. Laurent Brossoit. I am so Anglo-Western Canadian. It's just brutal. Anyways, he's back playing with the Oil Kings, actually, as of Saturday night. Also, a half bad to the fact that the tournament is in Russia. It's really, really going to be tough to even watch these games right now.
Yeah, as soon as I'm not an evening worker anymore,
yeah, exactly.
Start scheduling games at 2 a.m.
They did that
Come
for
on.
you. They did that for you, Jim.
Unbelievable. So I'm going to be tired a little bit
Uh-oh.
at work. Let's give a good to soccer player Christine Sinclair. She won the Lou Marsh Award as Canada's most outstanding athlete on Monday and was named the Canadian Soccer Association's Female Player of the Year on Tuesday. She had an Olympic record 6 goals on the way to a bronze medal this summer and has now been the CSA's Female Player of the Year for 9 years running, Jeff. 10 overall, but 9 years running.
How was she not on FIFA's top 3 female athletes of the year? What is that about?
You know why? Because she's a gritty Canadian who stood up for her team.
Exactly. Well, we're going to give a good to England's Professional Footballers Association, who have responded to pleas for action on discrimination with a promise to bring in cultural lessons for all pro footballers and managers in England, as well as newcomers from abroad. We've been talking about this whole kind of issue on 15 Minutes of Fame for a long time now. There have been a few high-profile incidents involving racism or even alleged racism during games. So while, the cultural lessons might not seem like much, hey, at least it's a start, and let's continue from there.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't make a difference right away, but what's the first thing that comes out of a player's mouth when, maybe if he's from a different country and he says something, that's not where I'm from, that we call it, that's what we say. Okay, fair. Now you can't say that.
No, that's
I
great.
guess. So they're doing something.
It's a start.
That's better than doing nothing.
That's right.
That's right. A bad to New England Patriots wide receiver Dante Stallworth. He was released after training camp, but re-signed on December 4th after another receiver went down with a foot injury. He played in Monday night's 42-14 beatdown of the Houston Texans, caught a 63-yard touchdown pass, hurt his ankle, placed on the injured reserve, done for the season. Tough break, but at least he got back in there, had a big highlight play, but done for the season.
Stallworth's a good player. I hope we see him in training camp next year. I hope the 63-yard catch gets him into a training camp next year, gets him another shot. Hopefully his career's not over that easy, but we'll see. A bad to Toronto Raptors forward Amir Johnson. He was suspended for 1 game this week for getting into it with a ref. So he gets a technical foul and then throws the mouth guard at the ref. Hilarious. So Portland's up. Portland goes for free throw. Johnson tried to wrestle the ball away from the ref. And then, this is after a free throw. This isn't even, in the middle of play or anything. And then proceeded to absolutely lose it. I guess I'd be mad, too, if I played for the Raptors right now, to tell you the truth. This is a great stat, though. Amazingly, he's the first Raptor to be suspended since Keon Clark in 2001. Could you imagine that many Raptors bad teams and not having someone suspended? Doesn't Kobe get suspended every 10 minutes?
Finally, a bad to Rutgers basketball coach Mike Rice. He's been suspended for 16 days by the school and has to undergo anger management and sensitivity training because of the extreme behavior that was uncovered during an internal investigation. Stuff like throwing basketballs at players' heads during practice,
Seriously.
Abusive language that crossed the line of what a coach usually says.
Yeah.
Because we all know that there's a certain amount allowed. I think we featured another crazy coach a couple weeks ago. He was also fined $50,000 and will have an independent monitor watching his practices when he returns to make sure that he's not flying off the handle.
That's my favorite part.
There you go, Mr. Rice.
Well, exactly. My favorite part is the independent monitor. That's awesome. It's not only did you do bad, but we're going to put someone in to watch you for the next little while. So, I love that. That's fantastic. This is great. The punchline this week, Jim, the punchline this week is tennis star Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, we all hear these stories about extravagant purchases made by pro athletes and sometimes the investments that come back to haunt them a little bit. This one's, I'd say, in a league of its own. Novak Djokovic just bought the entire world's supply of a rare kind of donkey cheese.
Oh, nice.
Which sounds like a prank. 1 pound of it is worth $500 to $600, apparently. He owns some restaurants, so I think it's got something to do with that. But
let's hope so, Jim.
Well, let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. He's all plugged up on the court. And I wonder what's going on. Just mashing $500 cheese into his face. But that's a strange one. That's a strange thing to do with your money.
That's a little strange, but hey, if you've got it, then
I'm not judging.
Spend it. No, yeah, exactly. No judgments here. If we had that kind of money, we would probably be doing the same thing.
Yeah, except maybe instead of the world's supply of cheese.
Yeah.
Not that.
Not that. Yeah, okay, I agree. Okay. Well, folks, our 15 Minutes of Fame is up for this week. Join us again next week when we get a whole new 15 Minutes of Fame. In the meantime, I'm Donkey Cheese Magoo.
And I'm incredibly cheesy.
Nice. Have a good week, folks.